Welcome friends to Farm Fresh Designs 59. In today's video, I'm going to focus on the new IOD stamp called Winter Adornment. Now, in some of my previous videos, I've used some of the other projects that were released just a couple weeks ago from IOD. So I hope you've had a chance to watch those videos and see the different ideas that I came up with. So my first project is one of those heavy cardboard pieces that you can get at the Dollar Tree. And I pulled all the paper off of it and I painted it with Rust-Oleum linen white chalk paint. Now this particular piece of the Winter Adornment stamp set, it doesn't like curve completely around. And what I'm wanting to do is to make it appear as if it does. So when I use that blue painter's tape, I was actually taping off the parts that would curve back in that I didn't want to. And so you just tap it with your ink, and this is actually some archival ink. The IOD red ink, I have re-inked my stamp pad several times, and I just can't get it as dark as I want it to be. So this is just some red ink that I bought at Hobby Lobby. So you just lightly tap it onto the stamp, and then you want to go back with the baby wipe, and you want to especially go all around the edges. On this one, if some of the little ink did come off, then I could just kind of dab it with white paint to cover that up. But later on, when you see that I stamp fabric, you don't have that luxury of being able to go back and fixing. So it's just a good lesson to be able to always, wipe off that extra piece that, it's no matter how many times you are used to stamping, you're always going to get just a little bit on the edge. And I'm actually using the same piece 3 different times, and I'm just going around it. And then there's just that little piece left. So I decide what part of that particular stamp that I want to put right up there, and then I stamp that. And then when you are through using your stamps, what I like to do is to go ahead and wipe them off with the baby wipe. And then what I like to do is put them in like an old dishpan with hot soapy water. And I actually have like a little toothbrush beside the sink that I only use, and I'll just use some real gentle detergent, and I'll kind of scrub the little intricate pieces with that little toothbrush. Now, what I'm doing now is in the center, I'm just putting my last initial, and it comes from the IOD type setting stamp, and it's just one of the larger pieces. There's different letter stamp sets, but I wanted the bigger one. Now, what I'm doing right now is I'm just taking a little gold metallic paint, and I'm just putting little dots all the way around that M, just to kind of give it a little bit of interest. And then that top metal part, I painted it gold with the diamond dust on it. Now, I've used diamond dust before, but just remember, if you have small children and pets, you're going to want to make sure that it doesn't get on the floor when you're working with it, because it is made of glass. Now, this next piece is like a little sign that I got at the Dollar Tree, and it was one of the fall signs. And so I'm going to be using that same stamp, Winter Adornment, but different parts of it. And I'm going to go all the way around the top edge, all the way around the top and down to the side. Now, right up at the top in the middle, I stamped just a really small piece. But if you'll look at it right now, see how it looks a little bit dark? Well, that's when I use one of the little masks that they put in the stamp set for you to use. And then that way you're not inking over something that you just inked. And it makes it look more natural. And then I'm going to be stamping on both sides, and it's actually not the same stamp because I wanted both pieces to kind of slope downwards. And I'm just using, I think I am using IOD ink on this one, I believe. Now, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using the stamp set called Letterpress, and it comes with several different fonts. And I'm going to be stamping Jesus is the Reason for the Season. So if you'll look up in the top hand corner of the film, you're going to see a little piece of paper up there. And what I did was I measured where it is in the middle, and then I'm going to stamp from the middle and work my way out on both sides. But I went on and I counted how many letters I was going to have total, measured the space in between it, just so I could know which letters needed to be on either side of the middle of that little piece. Now, one of the things that you want to do to kind of keep it all in line is when I got ready to type the word "the," I left that little R still on the plastic. But I cleaned it off just to kind of give me a point of reference. And then when I get ready to stamp the next word, I keep the T on the little plastic or the thin mount, just for that point of reference. Now, with the word Jesus, you've got the S used a couple different times, so it gets a little tricky. But one of the things that I always say is when you're stamping, just take your time. This was not rushed at all, and actually I was pretty excited because there was only one tiny little spot where the ink did kind of come off on the sign. But this took me quite some time to do, but I was really pleased with the end result. And then once I finish up on that side of the sign, then I work my way on the other side. And remember, when you put those stamps on your thin mount, it's always a good idea to flip it over real quick and look at it to make sure that they're lined up even. And then I use the vintage textures to put a fine crackle finish on the sign. And then I went around it with just like a little makeup sponge, and I kind of brushed on a little bit of that black ink. And you can just barely see it, but it's enough to kind of take it from being quite so white. And then I use the red ink to kind of dab in those little berries. And I'm hanging it with a ribbon, and then this is just some greenery that I've got at the Dollar Tree. So if you're liking the video today, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel and become part of our family. Now, the next piece is going to be like a tea towel that you would use in the kitchen. So I folded it completely, and I'm using that blue painter's tape to kind of measure off where I want to put the stamp. So it's going to be right in the middle. So when I hang it up, that I can make sure that the design is going to be seen. Now, when you're stamping on fabric, you're going to want to have something up underneath it because that ink may go through. And I did press over this, but what I probably could have done was I probably could have washed it, and that might have gotten part of that wrinkle out. Now, you can wash these fabric pieces afterwards, but what's going to be really important is once the ink is dry, you need to heat set it. So you're going to want to put it on the ironing board or whatever you've got, and not use any steam, and just keep it on there on not a real hot setting, but to make sure it kind of sets up after about 2 minutes. Now, I forgot to like stamp or forgot to film the part where I was stamping these little Christmas balls. And they come from the stamp set called Holly Jolly. Now, I needed something to like hang these little ornaments down. And so I was trying to figure out what could I use, and I pulled out my IOD sprig stamp, which has got, all it is, it's just like the little sprig off of a little weed or a little flower. And that's what I used to make it look like the little chain coming down. Now, I did use the mask over those little Christmas balls because that way I could just lay that stamp down and not worry about it going over that particular ornament. And I love the way it turned out. And I like that you can marry different stamp sets together and it just looks real cohesive. So what do you think? And do you like to have pretty towels in your kitchen, especially for different occasions? I do. I have one that's always pretty that my family knows that they're not allowed to use, but it's pretty. But I always like to have something for every occasion. Now, the next things I'm going to make are some cloth napkins. And I actually found these at Walmart in the kitchen section. And I think there were 4, and I think they were like $5.99. They were not expensive at all. And the edges were already frayed like that. Now, I did go ahead and wash these because I will be putting these in my vendor booth. So I wanted to go ahead and get that sizing off of it. You know, like when you first buy something with fabric, sometimes it helps to kind of wash it first. Now, what I did was I taped around the edges of that napkin so that I wouldn't like stamp onto those little fringe parts. And I used 3 different pieces from the Winter Adornment, one on each napkin, and then I used one of them 2 times. And I just took my time, made sure to ink it up, went around the edges with the baby wipe, and then just push it down, lay it down, kind of hover over it, hold it down with one hand, and then walk your fingers around it with the other hand, and then pull it straight up. Now, I didn't have any napkin rings, but I had some old toilet paper rolls, so I cut them to where they were like 1 1/4 inches. Now, I will not be putting these in my vendor booth, but I wanted to show you what you could do if you were going to have something at home. Just use some toilet paper rolls, you know, as long as you're not having really fancy company. And this is just one little part of the Winter Adornment. And I just stamped the same thing on all the napkins, on all the little napkin rings. And here's my little napkins that I came up with. And I will heat set these, and then I'll put them in a really pretty plastic bag and put them in my vendor booth when I start putting my Christmas items in. But I think they turned out really pretty. And you can use any color ink. You could even just use black ink if you wanted to, but you can make these for any occasion. If you like to go ahead and have your table set and have the napkins already set out, it's a really inexpensive way to have pretty cloth napkins. So now what I'm doing is I'm going to do a little monogram on some different stockings. I'm going to be making my grandchildren a little stocking, and I'm going to just put their first initial on it. Now, this is from the IOD. I think it's called Swag, and it's just like a cursive looking part alphabet piece. Now, this stamp set, they're all lowercase letters. And I want to make sure that none of that ink in the middle ends up on that stocking. So I just take some little Q-tips and kind of wipe that part out. Because remember, when it's fabric, you don't have that luxury of going back and being able to paint over any little parts that you mess up on. So I want to make sure that there's no extra ink on that stamp. And it's important to just pull it straight up. And once again, this is part of that Winter Adornment. and I wanted to go ahead and put tape on the back of it, because those extra little pieces, I did not want those to end up on the bottom part of the stocking. And I'm just going to stamp all of it with black ink. I could use red, but I feel like for my grandkids, just kind of keep it all the same, I just thought I would do it in black ink. So I'm wondering what they're going to think about this, because the stockings that they have, well, Grammy usually ends up having too much to put in a stocking, and for some reason, my children think that I spoil my grandchildren. I, however, think that I do not, but I love Christmas, and I love being able to just buy them the little things that maybe, their parents aren't going to get them. And yes, well, I do spoil them, but that's okay. That's what grandmothers are for. And then I'm just going all around the edge with that baby wipe. And it's important when you ink something on fabric, you want to have extra ink on that stamp, because the fabric is going to absorb it some. And I really like the way it turned out. And you see how down at the bottom it comes straight across, and that was because I used that blue painter's tape to make sure that the end part of that stamp wouldn't end up down on the burlap part of that stocking. So what do you think? And do you like to fill up stockings at Christmas time? I even make one for my husband. And I make one for my kids. And you know what? They never complain when they have a full stocking. So they like that their mom is really spoiling them. And it's okay to pull it up. Just make sure that you hold it really tight. I just wanted to make sure that it got stamped on the edge. And I think it turned out really pretty. And these are things that you can put in your vendor booth and just not put like a monogram on it. But you could use stamps, because people are always wanting, a special kind of stocking, especially to fill up at Christmas time. Now, these two are really easy. These are just white gift bags that I'm just going to be stamping. And, of course, I forgot to film that part where I stamped the little greenery. And this is from one of the holiday, and it's the Christmas pups. And so I just used the green ink, work my way around it. And I love stamping my own gift bags, because I just think it's so much more personable. Now, this is just a little strip of drop cloth that I stamped with a long sprig from the Winter Adornment. And I had to stamp it twice, and then I'm just using it to tie as a ribbon on my gift bag. And I'm not going to tie it into a bow, I'm just going to tie it into a little knot, and then it's just going to hang down. And what I'll be doing is I will be putting these in my booth, and I'll have tissue paper in it. And it'll be something that, somebody, if they're coming into the store, they can go ahead and have a gift bag ready for the gift that they're buying. And this is another one. And this one, I believe I'm using one of the Christmas kitties. No, I'm not. No, I'm sorry. I'm using a stamp from the Holly Jolly, and it's some Christmas bells. So I stamped that sort of right there in that little curve. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to use some, like a gold ink pad. You can use gold paint and put it on a stamp with brayer, but I've got a stamp, and I stamp Merry Christmas in gold. Now, this is just a little bag that you can put a gift card in, and this is just something extra that I had done, and this is a little transfer in the Candy Cane Cottage transfer set. And I just am putting some cardboard inside because it just makes it easier to transfer it on. And it just makes for a pretty little bag to put a gift card in. And then up at the top, I'm also going to be stamping Merry Christmas, because I like to have little things like this in my booth for people to pick up as they're buying different gifts for people. Makes it easy so they don't have to go to the store and buy a gift bag. So I know that, we're doing a lot of Christmas these days, but for those of us who have vendor booths, we have to go ahead and be prepared. But I wanted you to also think about for yourself, on the days where it starts to get chilly and cold and maybe you don't want to go off someplace, these are some great things that you can go ahead and be making ahead of time for Christmas, especially if you like to use gift bags. And Walmart has them, and I think you can buy them at the Dollar Tree, and Hobby Lobby has them. And there's the little gold Merry Christmas right there. But I just think it's a fun way to personalize a gift for someone. So what do you think? So friends, we're coming to the end of the video today, and I've shown you a lot of different ways that you can use the Winter Adornment stamp. And Johnelle at Decoupage Central, right now she's got several different stamp sets left of these. So if you're wanting to get the stamp set, I'll leave the link in the description box below. But she carries decoupage paper and IOD and Pentart products. And so you can go to that link if you're wanting to get this stamp or any other of the IOD. But thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to leave me a comment and tell me what was your favorite today. And guys, we are already over 4,000 subscribers, so thanks to you for all of your support. It's been so much fun to get to know all of y'all through YouTube, and you feel like part of my family. So tell me what's your favorite, and do you like to stamp and have all these little extra things for Christmas? Because I'm going to be having a lot of different things to put in my vendor booth early and not waiting until the last minute. And this one's my favorite. This one I'm going to keep unless my mom tries to steal it from me. But I just think it's really sweet. And Jesus is the reason for the season. We have to make sure we keep that in mind. Because I know it's always fun to give to other people, but, Christ is the ultimate gift. So I hope you enjoyed the video today. Make sure to give it a thumbs up if you like the video, and make sure to subscribe to my channel, and make sure to hit the notifications button so you'll be notified when I put my next video up. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a great week. I'll see you soon.